Hey, this is TBD, and in this video I'm going to be addressing the issue of fake football agents. Fake football agents, the bane of my existence. Now, who or what is a football agent? A football player agent is a football player representative who handles almost every aspect of the player's playing career, allowing him to play football. Some do the bare minimum, things like finding clubs, negotiating contracts, and dealing with disciplinary issues, whereas others go all out. If you've ever been a football player agent in Africa or operating on the African continent, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is a family affair. Anyway, I won't be talking about what a football player agent does in this video. I'm going to be focusing on those who pretend to be football player agents and use that as an opportunity to scam young players out of money. Now, this is a topic that's been on my to-do list, but I decided to bring it forward after a conversation I had with a club out in Azerbaijan. Now, they informed me that they had two players from Africa, from Kenya, turn up at the club claiming to have paid somebody, an agent, money in their home country. And the agent asked them to turn up at this club in Azerbaijan, and there would be somebody expecting them, and there was an opportunity there for them. But when they turned up at the club, guess what? Nobody knew who they were. And at that point, they realized that they had been scammed. So this case of the Kenyan players turning up at the club in Azerbaijan is not an isolated incident. It happens all the time. I hear about cases of agents or supposed agents contacting players in person and also online, but it usually happens online via social media. So how exactly does it happen? Now, I have never spoken to anybody who has carried out the scam. However, based on the conversations I've had with people who have been scammed, some of the young players that have been scammed, I think I've managed to unravel how the minds of these people work. So, first of all, they find a profile that's buzzing. And that's one that has a lot of information on it. Action photos, playing football, videos, playing football. The profile is fully filled out with the name, the date of birth, the height, the playing positions. And it may have stuff like, favorite club being Chelsea, favorite footballer being JJ Okocha. It'll say that they're an attacking midfielder, for instance. So the agent will use that information in order to entice the player. So, for instance, the agent will contact the player via, direct messenger and say, right, I've just had a look at your profile. I see that you're an attacking midfielder, and I think you're absolutely amazing. I'm a scout from Chelsea, and I just wanted to let you know that you play really well. You play just like JJ Okocha. And I'd like to invite you over for trials at Chelsea. So they have used that information from the player's profile to excite the player. And that's without the player actually knowing that this agent has gone through their profile and picked out the information. Following on from this would be a process of continuous grooming. And this is where the fake agent will continue to contact the player and massage his ego and tell him how good he thinks he is and how he really believes he could excel in the English Premier League. He'd probably send him gifts, send him money, and make him feel special, really. And he'll more or less make him believe that he really does have his best interest at heart. Eventually, he'll tell him that it is time to start processing his documentation. However, he would need to pay a certain amount of money in order to cover things like medical insurance and travel insurance. And he will ask him to transfer that money through like an untraceable mode of payment, usually something like Western Union or World Remit. And as soon as that money has been paid, that's it. They don't hear from the agent again. I've spoken to players who have told me that they've had to borrow money, they've had to sell prized possessions, they've taken out, loans, and this is all in order to be able to fund this trip. So I have used Chelsea in my example because that's one of the scenarios I've come across. However, I have seen fake invitation letters for trials coming from clubs in the EPL, MLS, Turkey, and other parts of Europe as well. Now, the scenario I've just given you is actually the best case scenario. You may be saying, best case scenario, this person has just lost money. What do you mean? And what I do mean is the alternative is that the player is carried from their home country, uprooted, and ends up in Europe with no trials. And then the player is too embarrassed to go back because they don't really want to go back to their home country and start explaining that they'd been scammed. So they'd prefer to stay in Europe and live sometimes illegally. And this makes them extremely vulnerable and exposes them to exploitation. I sometimes have young players asking me how best to spot a fake deal. Now, that's not an easy question to answer. And that's because there are so many different ways in which this scam could work. However, in the first instance, I always say adopt the TBD STAR approach. STAR stands for stop, think, ask before you react. So for instance, if you are presented with this marvelous opportunity to come and trial at Liverpool, stop and think, ask yourself questions. I currently play on the streets of Monrovia. I haven't played a competitive match in months. I'm match rusty. Would Liverpool really be interested in my services at this point in my career? I'm not saying you wouldn't play for Liverpool in the future. Who knows? Maybe. Amen. However, at this point in time, why would they be interested in your services? You need to ask yourself tough questions. Ask the agent questions. Ask them how they came across your profile. Did they just stumble across your profile? Was it a recommendation? If it was a recommendation, who is it that recommended you to them? You know, ask them whether they have a LinkedIn profile. Most professionals these days have a LinkedIn profile. Go and have a look, see which connections they have in common. Maybe you can ask somebody who this guy is. Have you ever worked with him? Can you recommend him? You know, you can also ask people in the community where you live. There must be people who are trusted and who are educated and who are learned, who you can try and get some more information out of. I'll give you an example. I once saw a letter that was supposedly from Manchester United. But as soon as I saw the letter and I saw the address, which said Manchester United, Old Trafford, London, I knew straight away that it was fake. Somebody who doesn't know the geography of the United Kingdom probably wouldn't know that. So sometimes it's very obvious to spot a fake letter, but just because you may not be totally au fait with certain things, you may miss really easy things. So that's one of the things I advise people to do. So ask all these questions, and then you'd be in a position to react and make an informed decision. So in conclusion, you just have to be very careful who you communicate with online. I know that social media is amazing for networking, and as a footballer, you will always be contacted online. I've actually seen some really good deals come out of contact that's been made via social media. But like I said, you just need to vet the people who are contacting you to make sure that they are actually legit. Again, if you're ever being asked for money for trials, you have to think about that very, very carefully. Because unless it's an organized tournament where you may have to pay for your accommodation and your feeding, being asked for money to attend trials is not commonplace. Now, I know of arrangements where the club may say, you have to pay for your logistics to get here. When you arrive, we will give you accommodation, we will give you feeding. And then if we are happy with you and we take you on, we offer you a contract, then we will refund that money you've spent on your logistics. But they don't ask you for that money. You do that yourself in your home country. You book your flight, you get your visa, etc., and then you turn up. So it's very unusual for a real deal, for like a club in a real deal to ask you to send them money in order to arrange trials for you. So just be very, very, very careful. So if anybody ever asks you for money to attend trials, alarm bells should start ringing in your head. Those who have ears, let them hear. I'm available to discuss anything that I've talked about in this video. If you'd like to make contact with me, please do so via email. You can leave comments in the box below, or you can connect with me on social media. Don't forget to share and subscribe. You could be helping somebody else out. Take care.